Hello and welcome back to Normal 40, the podcast. This one's a bit of a different episode than normal. My name is Adam. I'm usually your co-pilot on this journey. And this is the part where I would tell you that I'm joined by the lead pilot and a dude you need to know. His name is Lon. But we've called a giant audible today. And this is an episode I think it's going to be very special, very unique, something that we've wanted to do for a long time. Because when you think about what we're all going through on the normal 40 highway here, you're going through change, right? And you're going through something different. And we've talked a lot about how that makes us as individuals feel, how that makes, us, think about ourselves. But we haven't really kind of, dove into what that does to the people that are closest to us, the people that are around us on a daily basis. And so Lon was able to convince his lovely wife, Mindi Stroschein, to join us on this episode to share her perspective. So the other side of the normal 40 movement that Lon has started. So first off, Mindi, I appreciate you being willing to share your story and share kind of your side of the journey. I think it'll be very interesting, but thank you for joining us on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Adam. And hey, I'm okay being the flight attendant on this journey. So, I'll come through and make sure your glass is filled and feeling good.
I suspect behind the scenes, Mindi, you're probably the lead pilot, but we'll get into all that later on as well. But I would say let's start here just to orient the audience. You and Lon have known each other for kind of a long time. Give us a bit of the biography. How long have you and Lon been married? When did you guys all meet? Kind of give us the quick backstory about how long you've known Lon.
Sure. So we've been married for 20 years. We both met in about 21 years ago. So we only dated a year. I was in my early 20s. He was more mid 20s. And we met through mutual friends. And I'm glad you're asking me this, Adam, and not Lon, because he would give you a very long version, very exaggerated version of the story. So I'll just give you the facts. But yeah, we met through mutual friends. And quickly just had a connection, and the rest is history.
Take us to like early Lon career, right? He's kind of shared his career journey for those who don't know. What was kind of early Lon career like? What did you see in him daily on a daily basis? What was his work ethic like? What was that experience like, sort of being with Lon as the early part of his career launched?
It's part of what drew me to him. He's such an empathetic leader. Always had a servant heart. So just a drive that was infectious. So everything he did was full force. He did everything 100%. Always, wanting to help others and help them be at their best. And I saw that from Lon at the very get-go.
Well, so what's the flip side of that, though, right? So he's, obviously 100% at work and always helping folks from the family side. How did that impact you all? Because obviously those are really good traits from a leadership standpoint, but sometimes the byproduct of that is that has to be sacrificed somewhere, right? The pool of time that anyone has as a human, if you kind of cut that up, what did that sort of do for you? And especially as you guys began having a family, how did those traits kind of impact, what the home life was like with you and Lon, and how available he was for you all as a family?
Yeah, absolutely. So I gave up a teaching career to be a stay-at-home mom. So he went to work and he would come home, and on a Friday night, I had been home with the kids all week. I was ready to go out to dinner, and he was exhausted. And now with the roles being reversed, I get that. I'm back to teaching and he's home. And so I know what that feels like. So in hindsight, yeah, looking back, I'm probably more understanding now than I was then. But yeah, even at home though, he did his best to be a hands-on dad, a very supportive husband. But I could absolutely see the, just the energy he put in through the day did come down in the evening for sure.
Was there a point where, did he recognize that? I guess, when do you think that maybe he first recognized that? Or because I think back to, everyone sort of early in your career, you're starting off, and it's kind of funny sometimes how that life arc takes place. You start off and you want to climb the ladder as fast as you can, right? Everyone always wants success quickly. And sometimes you don't look at what the byproduct of that is. Did you ever notice or see or experience a time where maybe you felt like he was a little bit, unsure about that journey, or maybe something where he kind of recognized what that toll was taking as he kind of climbed his career ladder?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Lon, as he shared, he has had a lot of career changes. And so I think he may have recognized that. And then that's when, a career jump. I know certainly when his very first job, when he worked for our senator, that was a very demanding job. Lon did a lot of traveling. He was gone a lot. And that was difficult when we had, two babies at home, 17 months apart, or our oldest two. And so I absolutely think he recognized that. And that's when he made the jump into banking. So he could be home more and not be gone so much, on the road so much.
Well, take us. What is that like for on the other end, right? Obviously, your spouse is making changes. They're trying to do some things differently. And your role in that scenario, are you supportive? Are you offering sort of your perspective? Was there ever a point where you felt like you had to say, hey, Lon, maybe we should step back a little bit, or maybe you should kind of take a step back? What was your reaction as some of the changes he was making were taking place earlier in his career?
No, I think I was very supportive. I love, just Lon's energy. Again, being an empathetic leader, and just the drive that he had was so infectious. And I just love seeing him excited. I love that spark. And so every new opportunity that came around, that he would come home, he would talk to me about. And I just knew that's where he needed to go. And I felt that from him. I saw that in him. And so I was pretty encouraging, um, to be able to see that. And the other thing that Lon did really well is, I was a stay-at-home mom, but he was extremely um, encouraging and supportive there for what I did. And I think that's a big difference. He supported me every day. He was, in some way, shape, or form, would show me appreciation for what I did. And any success that he had on his end, he would always share that credit with me. And he would always voice, I couldn't do what I could do, what I'm doing, if it wasn't for my wife. And so it was easier for me to be supportive of that, because he shared that with me. I mean, from day one, we were a team, and we've raised our children um, to around that concept of, we work as a team. One decision of one person affects all of us. So that's just who we are.
Yeah, you mentioned the kids. Obviously, as our kids all get older, and you sort of settle in with, here's what mom does, here's what dad does, here's how that construct works. Did you ever feel or sense from the kids, questions about, hey, is dad coming home tonight? Hey, what time will dad be around? Was that ever kind of a factor, or is that something that sort of experienced as Lon continued to grow his career?
Absolutely. Um, and as a stay-at-home mom, that was hard sometimes for me, because when they did get dad, it was so exciting for them to be able to have a one-on-one date, with dad, go out to dinner, whatever. And then, mom was just kind of old news. Well, she's always here. And I'm
Sure.
like, hey, wait a minute, look at all that I do for you. I'm the one home all day, and the one that schedules all the things and chauffeurs you around. So yeah, that part for sure was hard. And that's about the time where I came to Lon and said, hey, I I love being at home, but I left a job that I loved, and I just need something for me. And that's when I went back and got my master's degree in teaching. And he was extremely supportive of that. So,
He talks a lot about the marriage contract. We've talked through that concept in a lot of shows. I can see you smiling on camera here because I assume you've heard
oh
that
yeah.
same speech before. Is that a literal conversation you all have, where it's like this is kind of contractually what we're each signing up for, or is that more of a metaphorical, just kind of understanding between, as you put it, like two people that are on the same team?
Yeah, it's definitely more metaphorical. Just yeah, we're just a team. Just that open line of communication. Um, yeah.
So it sounds like, if I have all this right, and feel free to correct me if I'm inaccurate anywhere. Lon's having a successful career, right? He's doing really well. He's moving up the ladder. You've now have kind of gotten back into something you're passionate about. It seems like, full steam ahead, all systems go. Things are going okay. Everyone sort of seems to be in a good space. But yet internally, what we now know is that Lon was feeling a little bit differently, right? And here's the thing I think about dudes in particular, right? We always think we're hiding stuff and we think we're really good at it. And sometimes we are, but the reality is we're not as good as we think we are, right? And I'm sure there are signs and there are tells, particularly for people who are with us kind of on a daily basis. So before Lon ever even brought to your attention, hey, I'm feeling something differently here. Was there a moment where you recognized a difference in him, where you were like, okay, this is interesting. I'm not used to seeing or hearing this kind of stuff from Lon?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. So, and Lon's probably going to hear this for the first time, but his last position, when he went from leading and managing a team of people to doing mergers and acquisitions, I immediately was like, whoa, hold on here. Your gift, what you do so well, is leading people. You have a vision and you just bring people along so well, and lead them into where you want your team to go. And you do that so wonderfully. And so I was a little hesitant on that, but I, kind of supported that. Well, I was right. I saw it. He left a company he loved. He is still friends with the CEO and his coworkers. So he wasn't unhappy, but I talk about the spark earlier. I saw that spark just wasn't there. That fire, that passion. He was coming home, and I could read that. And I should have, when I look back, I should have said something sooner, and I didn't.
If I can ask, I know it's a really tough question. What was the hesitancy on your part for not maybe bringing that to his attention, or not bringing that up in that moment of time? What do you think kind of caused you to kind of recoil and keep that in?
Easy. Lon always knew what he wanted. He has, like I said, he had a drive. He's always had a vision. He's our rock in our family, and I've always trusted his decisions. He's never steered us wrong, and so I just um, felt I'm seeing things wrong. He's in a position he loves. It's got to be me, and I should have brought it up sooner, and I didn't, and that's a regret that I have.
Well, what's the time frame? So, but and the time frame where you kind of recognize that, and the time frame where maybe it becomes more common, maybe you start talking about it, how much time elapsed between your first initial kind of gut instinct and the time where it sort of became known, either through Lon or through conversations. That's kind of how he was feeling as well.
That's a good question, Adam. I wish I could tell you weeks or months, but we're probably talking um, a few years.
And what, I guess, what kind of impact did you see from Lon on a day to day basis? Right? Was he just not as happy? Was he just not, was he talking differently? Was he tired more? I guess, what are the physical manifestations that you maybe saw or experienced during that, couple of year period where you recognized, hey, the spark is getting lower, but it hadn't yet sort of, come to light, if you will, that that's where he was at.
Yeah, again, it wasn't the unhappiness, but it was more um the stories. Like he'd come home, prior to that and just tell me about oh, you should have seen so and so today. They were just thriving on this, or gosh, we got this through and we worked so hard on this. And again, when he went to mergers and acquisitions, I think it's something Lon was very, very good at, but he didn't have the people stories that I was always used to hearing. And so I just sort of, I don't know, like just a deflation there
Mm.
in him. And that's just kind of what I noticed. His energy wasn't as, um, as high as what I had seen it to be.
I'm going to ask you an impossible question to know the answer to, and I'll also ask this to Lon later on as well, so I can fact check it. If he never takes that role in mergers and acquisitions, are we where we are right now?
Whew, that's a really good question. Um, yeah, I think so. I think we are still where we are. I think that this is something that probably has been building in him, and I think he could have been here maybe sooner,
Mhm.
maybe not. But there is no question that this is exactly where he is meant to be.
So Lon's told the story a few times on different episodes about a conversation you all had, and it centers around one phrase that he used in that conversation, and that phrase is, "Maybe my work here is done." Can you take us to your side of that conversation, right? If you've listened to previous episodes, and if not, I encourage you to go back and hear some of those stories. Lon obviously came to you. It sounds like you were in a bit of a restaurant style setting, and he says something to the effect of, "I think my work here is done." What's the opposite reaction from you? How are you intaking that information in that part of the conversation?
Yeah, it started with me. This is where I realized I need to get to the bottom of what my husband is feeling. Um, and so on our drive to Minneapolis, we just getting away for a weekend, and I said, "There's something that I'd really like to talk to you about." And of course, when you say that, your spouse is going, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" What? But no, so we had dinner, and afterwards we're sitting at this rooftop bar. I remember like it was yesterday. I could tell you what I was wearing. I could tell you what he was wearing. And I just brought up what I felt. I just said, um I'm seeing that the spark just isn't in you anymore, and um I know that you're not doing what you want to be doing for the rest of your life. And he just immediately teared up, and I could just see that he just needed me to give him permission. And I had no idea that I had that uh, power.
Mm.
Because, like I said, our whole marriage, Lon has been a risk taker. He just is a risk taker. He loves the adventure. I love the adventure. He's never had a problem coming to me prior to this with a career change. And so I didn't realize he needed me to tell him it's okay. I think that this might be a path that you need to discover, because we didn't know what was the at the end of the path. He didn't know that. But I think it's something that you need to explore. And he really needed me to say that.
So how did that change? So the next day, now that the conversation's taken place, how did that change sort of even the way he interacted, sort of the way that you all and you saw him sort of as a person at that point. I mean, how much I imagine, I'm just guessing here. You can keep me honest on this. I imagine that must feel like a giant weight lifting off your shoulders, right? When you finally can have that conversation with somebody that's obviously as important in your life. I imagine, did you see pretty instantly kind of that weight lift off his shoulder and just kind of see, okay, I can see a change just in that conversation?
100%. Of course, this is something Lon has been thinking about. He had done some writing. He's a writer, so he had done quite a bit of writing about this. I think he was just nervous or scared or just had this fear of telling me, even though I've supported him his entire life, and like I said, in all of his career changes. But you know, I think as a dude, if you will, um, you sort of climb that ladder, right? You get the job promotion, you get the higher paycheck, you get the title, that image that Long talks about, and then to say, "Yeah, I don't want that anymore."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was just something that was really, he just maybe just didn't know how I was going to react. And for me, as the spouse, I just want you happy. I want you sharing the gifts that you have. And I knew from the start that mergers and acquisitions was not it for him. So, yeah, I immediately, to answer your question, immediately the next day, he started to share with me what he had wrote, what he was feeling. Like it just opened the door of communication, which he really needed. And so that spark started to come back, and he started down a path of exploring what's next. What do I do with this?
As he walks down that path, obviously it's littered with unknowns, right? To your point, at that conversation, at that moment of time on that rooftop bar in Minneapolis, there wasn't the normal 40 wasn't there, right? That was not in the mirror, so to speak, right? So he's kind of walking down that unknown path, which creates a lot of unknown, frankly. And as an extension of his family, you are going to be impacted by that unknown, right? There's clearly an opportunity where you and your family would be impacted by that. Were there ever any internal concerns that you had, and maybe you didn't voice them to Lon at the time, as you kind of think through, man, like, are we going to have to move? Are we going to have to, sell the house? Are we going to have to do this and that? Or were there any sort of internal struggles for you that said, okay, I want to support my husband and I want to support what he wants to be, but did you have some of that stuff in your gut to say like, oh, this is going to be really interesting? And were there concerns on your part?
Absolutely. I mean, talk about a role reversal. I suddenly, so I had gone back to teaching. I teach kindergarten. Um, and so immediately I thought, oh my goodness, can we, what can we all afford on my salary? The kids, yeah, the school, you talk about the school district, absolutely. Um, will we have to sell the house? And for sure, I thought about all that. But what it came down to, I mean, really is, I don't know, just something about seeing Lon following a dream. And that's so inspiring to me when people take risks and follow a dream. It's inspiring. And I was inspired by him. I was inspired by the vision and willing to sacrifice it all to see him um, go after something that I knew in some way would help others and serve them. That servant heart was coming back, and I was so excited for that. So that's what I hung on to, and all those negative, fearful questions that would creep in, I just sort of shoved those aside and said, let's go for it.
And Lon, I talked about this on a previous episode as well. And it's a little bit of my own self journey. Is I have two kids. They're as we talk now, they're 15 and 10. And I think there's any parent does right. We never want our kids to go through anything heartbreaking. We always want to protect our kids, right? We want to make sure they're safe and they're happy. And I envision a conversation where you go to your kids and say, "Hey, we're going to make some changes, and it's going to impact your life as a spouse." And I put this in air quotes, you kind of sign up for that, right? When you hit that altar and you say till death do us part, for better or worse, you sort of sign up for that. Lon calls it a contract, right? But it's a spiritual contract between you and your spouse when you say those words out loud. The kids are a byproduct of that. Were you at all not concerned, but just like nervous that how am I ever going to explain this to the kids, or how, is this fair to do to the kids who may be looking for something in life or trying to experience something? Because I imagine for me personally, and I'll just internalize it for myself, that certainly is a moment that, I think would have a ton of weight and gravity on me. How did you kind of think through, okay, I'm okay with this and Lon's okay with this, but how do we now explain this to the kids?
Yeah. Well, again, I talk about we've raised them to be a team, and one decision affects all of us. The part that I really liked for them is to, at this point, our kids, we've got a freshman in college, we have a 17-year-old, and we've got a 10-year-old. And especially for our older two, it was really important for me that they could see it's okay to make a change in your life, no matter what age you are. The second that joy is gone and you just wake up and you're not happy doing what you're doing, it's okay to explore that, be curious about that feeling. And so I think I wasn't really that nervous about it. I was more excited for them to um, be able to just to see that change and be excited about it. And for them, just the pressure for kids these days in that age. I'm in
Yeah.
education, so it really is. It's a lot of pressure that they go through, especially at that age. And so for them to know, hey, it's okay if you want to change your major, if you think you're going here and suddenly you shift here, it's okay to do that. Your dad is a byproduct of that, and we're going to be okay.
Yeah, that's such a great message, and it's so powerful to I think for kids to see their parents, I don't want to say struggle, right? I'll put that in air quotes, but to see some of that change, right? To understand that not everything's always going to be sunshine and roses. You're going to fall down sometimes. You're going to skin your knee, but you can dust yourself off and sort of move forward. And I think that's a great learning lesson overall. But you talk about Lon sort of experiencing this path of the unknown. What does that mean? Was he trying different courses? Was he looking for new jobs? Was he, going back to school? What was that unknown period of time like after the conversation, after the I think I'm done here moment? Where did he start next? What did he start sort of doing, right after that moment?
Yeah, I think everything was he was just open to everything that was coming his way. And Lon is well known in our community. He's got a great reputation. He's worked hard for that. So he had some things come his way and he was open to those things. So he just started to, explore some of those options. I watched him do again, he sort of expresses his feelings in his writing. So he just kept, writing. I think his vision was in a part of that. And I can't remember exactly when the whole normal 40 came up, but when it did, it was just kind of like, this is awesome. I think I've got something here.
Well, obviously, it's easy to look at it now and say we see what you have, right? But that first moment where he says, "I've got something," what was your reaction? Were you like, "Hey, that's never going to work"? Like, "Hey, nice try." Like, "Hey, let's find something with an actual W too." What was your reaction when he was like, "Hey, I've got this crazy idea"?
I thought it was great because I'm a woman. We go out with friends all the time. Look, dudes, we spill it all when we go out with our girlfriends. We talk
Sounds,
all the things.
sounds like another episode we
Yeah,
need to
right?
record.
There we go.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I said, bring it up, like find test it a little bit. And once he started to do that, he started to find, there were so many men, and I can tell you women as well, but his
Sure.
audience is sort of dudes. So that just feel that, and they just have a really hard time admitting it. Um, you know, telling their spouse, their friends, this is what I'm feeling. It's just really tough on men from what I found, and it's typically not for us women.
Yeah, no, I mean, so true. Yeah, I mean, it's funny for those who are in the group on LinkedIn. You see messages every day, and you sort of see the some folks getting comfortable. And it's funny. Lon calls himself the mistress because a lot of people sort of, stalk his page, but are afraid to say something for a period of time until you sort of get over that hump. But all right, so now he's got this crazy idea. He's expressed it to you. You all have talked about it. You see a path forward. He says, "Hey, I'm going to give this a shot." Right. So he's kind of working and building that in the background, but he's still got his job. He's still got the role that he had, the role that maybe he wasn't comfortable with. And he's kind of expressed to us that pivot point moment where he has an opportunity, to potentially sign a new contract and stay with the company, or to potentially leave the company at that point. Take us through that decision process when he sits down or he comes home from whatever the work or whatever experience was, and he says, "I think I'm going to leave." How did that information land on your ears when you finally heard him say, "I'm going to leave the role that I have"?
Yeah. Again, I was excited for him. I was inspired by that. That takes courage and guts and all the things that I just admire about people and always have. Um, and so I was really excited for him to just explore a new journey.
How did that work for you just as a family? Did you have to sit down and kind of work out the logistics, right? I mean, Lon talks about kind of the math of some of these and making the trade. Did you all have to sit down and kind of map out the sort of the structure, the plan, and how this would work when he walked away?
No, we just pretty much jumped off the cliff, Adam, and went all in. That's just how we are. We enjoy the adventure, right? Have a little fun with the adventure. We'll figure out all that detail as we go along. I don't know. That's kind of what it felt like to me. I'm sure he did that. Um, but I don't know. It was just that adventure that it was just exciting. Again, like I said, I've witnessed him in a job that I truly didn't feel was serving him. And so for me, I just was so excited for this new path he was going to take. I got to see the spark was back, the flame was lit, and that's what that's what brought me joy.
So he normal 40 is born right at that moment in time. Like to your point, it's probably a sketch on a napkin. It's probably an idea in his head. It's not a fully functioning item, and it takes a while for that to kind of take hold. How much time and energy was Lon putting into sort of building what we now know to be the normal 40? How much of his day, of his week, was he kind of consumed and now chasing down this new idea? And what change did you see in him during that period of time?
Yeah. A lot. He still does. I got home last night and he said, "Oh, just one more email. You wouldn't believe the stories. Just one more email." And 2 hours later, I'm like, "Lon, it's time to end this." But I love it. He's every day he just sees a need. And I think he's just blown away at the number of people that come to him that say, "God, I feel the same way. I feel the exact same way. You're speaking my language." I still think he's blown away at that, and he's inspired by that, and it's a purpose, and so I think that it just keeps building that fire in him um, to help others.
As he's been on this journey, has there been a moment where you maybe had some concern? Maybe you had a little bit of fear or trepidation about where this was heading and what this could really be, even if you didn't express it at the time. Did you internally have any concerns or any sort of just feelings of unknown and uncertainty?
Absolutely. And I mean, I wouldn't be human if I didn't. And I still do. This is a great thing for Lon right now. Um, is it bringing in anything financially? Not really. So, of course, there's that. I mean, let's be honest, I'm a teacher, so you can look up what my salary is. So, absolutely, that just the financial piece of it. I wouldn't be human if I wasn't, kind of thinking, where is this going? What's we still really don't know. Um, but I just always come back to there is a need. Lon has a gift. And what better is that? When you just never know. I lost a brother to leukemia when he was very young. My whole childhood was watching him um, suffer with cancer. And so I learned very, very young how precious life is. And you get one life. And I've always had that attitude of um, take the risk and I would much rather get to the end of my journey and have no regrets. And so that piece of it just is priceless.
One of the things that Lon talks about a lot, and it's so true, is just the concept of status and ego and sort of who you are, right? What's been the reaction as you've gone to your friends, your family, and you've shared the news? Hey, everybody, great news! Lon left this great job, right? Public company executive, and now he's doing this thing on the internet, right? What's the reaction sort of been? How long did I guess it take you to even get comfortable doing that? Because again, and this is no disrespect to you or anybody else, but sometimes it takes some courage to sort of go out there and say those things. How quickly were you able to do that? And what sort of reaction do you get from people now when you tell them that story?
Well, let me answer that first as the spouse. So
Sure.
it's interesting being with Lon, and prior to his job, he would just march in and, hey, I'm the executive director of mergers and acquisitions, and it would just roll off his tongue, right? And then with this, I've heard him just sort of be a little bit hesitant. And so
Hmm.
I actually brought it up to him and I said, "How come you're not answering what you do with as much uh satisfaction, or you're a little more hesitant now?" And he's like, "Oh gosh, you're right. I need to work on that." So my point is, image is a real thing
Okay.
and I don't know if it's more dudes than women. I don't know, but for me, um, I have no problem saying the one hard part about saying, this is what Lon's doing is it's really, it's hard to really, there's not really a title for it. It's not really because people come back and they'll say, oh, so like a life coach, it's just, it's kind of hard to explain. So I would do better if it actually had a title. I don't really know what to call him.
Sure. Dude on the internet, I think, is what he calls himself
Right,
in
I
most
know, a
settings, right?
dude you should know. Yeah, a dude you
Yes.
should know. So I should probably, yeah, start sharing that. Yeah.
How about for you as you went through this journey, just from a personal perspective? Did you have friends and family that you were kind of leaning on to kind of, share your experiences, kind of what you're going through? Obviously, Lon's going through, what he is, and you all have each other. Who did you, or how were you able to lean on others to kind of help you through that period of time? To, you mentioned earlier, dudes don't talk, women do talk, right? Like how much, were you able to or comfortable sharing with some of your friends and family members?
Yeah. So my parents, and I think Lon touched on this a bit with the acceptance, they're just in that generation. They just, they work hard at their one job, and it's a generational thing. So I think, my parents just had a hard time really relating to what it is that he's doing. But yet, I mean, big fan. they're big fans of lawn. They're supportive in that way, but just didn't really get it. My girlfriends were super excited about it, just knowing Lon. Um, he just has this gift of listening, a gift of speaking, and they know that part of him. So they were so supportive. And, just like me, I think they just suddenly just saw this spark come alive again in him. And we're incredibly supportive. Yeah.
So here's the beauty of the normal 40, right? There's a dude out there right now who's been listening to episodes, who's been reading posts on LinkedIn, who's been thinking about these things. And he maybe he hasn't shared with his spouse yet. Maybe his wife does not know this is what's happening. And this episode is going to be playing. And it's going to be 40 minutes into, which it is right now. And he's going to say to himself, you know what? I need to go have that conversation with my spouse. I need to open up. This is time. And maybe he plays this episode for his spouse, and they get to this part, and they're listening together. And the question I'm sure the spouse is asking, that I want to ask you now is, what advice do you have for that spouse who's maybe just hearing this information for the first time, maybe just understanding or being told this for the first time, that their husband's going through this, that their dude is kind of going through this? What advice would you give those individuals who are just about to hear this news or maybe just heard it?
Yeah. Don't wait to ask the question like I did. Women are really good communicators. Men need a nudge. So open that door, crack it open just a little bit with a question. Hey, are you happy doing this? Do you see yourself doing this in 5 to 10 years? Give them that permission to communicate a feeling, a dream, something that they just haven't been able to communicate, but yet you can see it. I didn't realize the power that I had with that, and I wished I would have done it sooner. And if you're the dude, please know that your spouse, like, we are here for you. Like, we just want to see you happy. And I'm older now, and looking back, I didn't realize the pressure that men put on themselves with that balancing, going to work and kids. And it's a lot. And having this perception that you need to, I'm here now, and this is where my wife wanted us to be, and we have this lifestyle, and we want, this is I can't go back now. I can't change a direction. I promise you, you can, and you just have to be vulnerable and share it. Share your feelings with your spouse, because honestly, we just want to see you happy. We want a happy human coming through the door. That's what we want.
What's been the most fun part of this journey for you? I mean, I know this is it's a heavy subject material, right? But it sounds like in the 43 minutes you and I have gotten to know each other, it sounds like you're definitely one who enjoys the risk, enjoys life, wants to have some fun, wants to enjoy the journey. What's been the most fun part about this entire experience for you?
Yeah. And I'm equally as much of a risk taker and adventure. My friends will tell you that, but the unknown has been just fun. It's been fun to just sort of walk through that unknown and the curious and the exploration. It's been fun. But the best part about it is that I get to see um, a husband who is doing something every day that he loves, that he is good at. I mean, there is just no question that he has a gift and he is exploring that and he is sharing that. And in return, he is helping others um, change a path from a life that they're on, that they're not living another day going down the same road um, that they're on, that they're switching paths to something that they've been curious about. And for Lon to be a part of that journey um, is so rewarding to him. I mean, he gets really hung up on some of those stories. Just it's he shared some of those stories with me, and yeah, there's just a lot of inspiring um, stories out there.
Ultimately, what do you think will make Lon successful on this journey? It sounds like the way that he's wired and sort of the way that he is from a servant leader perspective, from an empathetic perspective. What do you? I assume you have no doubts he'll be successful on this journey. What do you think will make him successful? What is it about him that you know that this movement, whatever it becomes, whatever it sort of morphs into, what about it has you saying to yourself, "I know this will be a success"?
Um, he is on mission. He talks about that, and it is so true. He's just not, it goes back to his character. He's got a drive, he's got a passion, he's got a gift, and he's full force ahead. And he's committed. He's committing to helping others. I have no doubt that he's going to keep going.
So I got to ask though, the first time he comes in the room and he's talking about the guard and the lantern and the mission and the ramble, you had to be like, "What are you talking about?" Did it take you some time to kind of get used to some of the things that he's kind of thinking about and sharing with others?
No, because I'm so cheesy like that. I loved it. I loved that analogy. I thought it was great. He shared that with me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Lon, that's so wonderful. That's exactly who you are. You serve a purpose for each individual in the exact way that you just described it. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant.
Well, Mindy, we appreciate you taking some time, and I think this is a really important episode and one that Lon's been wanting to do for a while because normal 40 just isn't the one person potentially going through something. It's what I call the board of directors, the individuals that support that person that are also experiencing it as well. So I think it's very powerful to kind of hear you talk about what it is that you experience and the way that you supported Lon and the way that you really, in some respects, were the key that unlocked him down this path and this journey. So I appreciate you for being vulnerable and sharing more about the journey along the way and sharing more about your experience with Normal 40. I know Lon appreciates it as well, and hopefully all the listeners out there took something from this. Again, shameless plug if you're not already. Make sure you head over to LinkedIn. There's a Normal 40 group that's closed. Lon started that group with a goal, I think, of trying to get just a couple hundred dudes in there. I think we're over 2,000 dudes in that group right now. So if you're on the fence about introducing yourself, if you're on the fence about talking to your spouse, if you're on the fence about anything, hopefully some of the things that Mindy shared with you today will give you some strength, give you some hope that sometimes the conversation is better received than you think it will. But Mindy, we appreciate you for taking the time to join us, and thanks for everyone showing up and being vulnerable. And we'll be back soon with a new episode of Normal 40. Take care.